Hi guys, today we're going to talk about the OnePlus Nord because basically with the new video of Marcus Brownlee we basically see the phone and we also get an interview with Carl Pei about the device itself and different perspective as a phone maker. So if you are interested in that, I will leave a link in the description for that video. Anyway, what we basically see in this video is the phone itself and see it in all its glory, and of course the two colors that come with it. Anyway, let's talk about the device itself, run through the specifications, what we know so far, and of course talk a little bit about the design itself as well. So the OnePlus Nord, let's start with the color. It comes in grey and this steel-like color. I like the colors for itself. It looks a little bit cheaper, but that's because, well, it is a cheaper budget mid-range phone, and that is something we can see back in the specifications as well. So the price is set to be under $500 and it will have an AMOLED display, which is something that I find quite important because AMOLED displays for myself just look so much better than an LCD panel. Anyway, let's run through the specifications that we get. Now in terms of the rest of the rumored specifications, we get a Snapdragon 765G, 8 to 12 GB of RAM. In terms of storage, you get either 128 GB or 256 GB. For the rear cameras, which are actually 4 cameras, we get a 48 megapixel wide camera, which is the main sensor with a 1.75 aperture, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 5 megapixel depth camera with a 2.4 aperture, and a 2 megapixel macro sensor as well with a 2.4 aperture. For the front we actually get 2 cameras. You get a 32 megapixel front facing camera, which is the main camera, with a 2.45 aperture, and an 8 megapixel ultra wide lens that is a 2.45 aperture. In terms of battery, you get a 4150 mAh battery that includes 30 watt charging, something that many high-end phones still probably don't do. You get an in-display fingerprint scanner, which is basically what we see with the current OnePlus as well. This isn't the 3D Sonic one, but the 2D one. So basically a camera sensor that senses your fingerprint. And of course you get 2D face unlock. Now for myself, I haven't been an average user of OnePlus. I have used OnePlus devices, including the first version. You know, the one where basically an old man decides to pull up his pants as far as his navel and it just looks really odd for the camera placement. I know it's a weird comparison, but that is simply how it looks. And the other one is basically where, so the OnePlus 2 is basically where they said, you know, I'm gonna lower my pants now. It's a weird way to describe a design, but that is what I think of when I actually see that phone and that design itself. Anyway, with that being said, I've used OnePlus devices, and of course I used the OnePlus 7T series, the OnePlus 7T, the OnePlus 7T Pro and the McLaren version when I was in the event of London, where I actually met some awesome people like Mkwan, Lover of Tech Benjamin, of course Daniel from Son of Tech, and of course C-Tech Care. We'll leave a link in the description for them as well. I would highly recommend checking those channels out anyway. Anyway, one thing that OnePlus does really well is of course getting the updates to their phones. I think it's one of the best when it comes to updates for their phones in longevity. This is something that is quite important for those average users that don't really buy a new phone every 2 years or every 3 years. It's something that I actually respect from OnePlus. Those updates, it's really important, and of course those who used OnePlus know how smooth their software is in terms of use. But anyway, I think it's something that we can respect about OnePlus. However, we cannot deny that prices have gone up from OnePlus. The devices now are costing more and more for OnePlus, and I feel like the OnePlus Nord is somewhat taking a step back. While they don't offer the flagship chip, I don't feel like they really need to. The Snapdragon 765G will be a fine chip. You won't notice the difference for your day-to-day use, and I feel like that's something that is really key. This is also, by the way, where it's rumored that the Google Pixel 5 will not feature the latest Snapdragon chip in terms of the Snapdragon 865 or 865 Plus, but instead feature that same 765G. And that's something, again, that will work fine. It's something that you will notice in your wallet though, because then they can offer you that phone for a lower price. The Snapdragon 765G is cheaper than, for instance, the 865 and especially than the 865 Plus, and that is something that you will see in return. So the phone is offered for a lower price, mainly because, well, that CPU is a bit lower in price as well, and you will lose some speed for it, but you won't really notice it anyway. Anyway, let me know what you think about the OnePlus Nord, and of course its design itself. For me, it's A basic design, you get the dual cutout like we see on the Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus, and some other devices had it as well. But apart from that, it's a really generic design, of course, because everything when it comes to smartphone designs is pretty generic if you ask me. But anyway, I'm interested to see your opinion about the device as well. And again, like I said, if you want to see the full interview with MKBHD and of course Carl Pei, I'll leave a link in the description and you can see the device in full as well. For me, I'm just using stills because I feel like if you want to see it in video, you should check out MKBHD. Anyway, have a good one. And of course, if you enjoy this kind of video, let me know in the comments below and of course, leave it a like. Anyway, cheers.